Thank you very much for having the Wildcats to the Liberty Bowl. Fired up about the opportunity. Obviously, a bowl with an unbelievable tradition, and we're looking forward to having the opportunity to go square off against Navy, who's a very, very good football team that will be all that the Wildcats want. Obviously. Questions?
Coaches, when you talk about this matchup, everyone wants to talk about that Navy offense. But what's the Navy defense bring?
Well, obviously they're very, very sound. They understand their fits, and just all you got to do is go look at their inside linebacker number 54. The style and the way that he plays football, how he plays the game, is a tribute to how I'm sure they go about their business every day. I mean, they're sound at what they do, and they play physical and they play hard, and they make you make big plays against them.
You may have just described why this is, but they give up around 3 yards a carry against the run. What's helped them be so good against the run this season?
Well, a little bit twofold. One, they fit things very, very well as far as understanding how they fit the defense. And then secondly, they're going to try to put pressure on you. They're generally speaking not going to just play with 4 guys at the line of scrimmage. They're going to try to get 5 and 6 guys. I believe they know that if they can get off the field as a defense, their offense will keep the ball and give them a great opportunity to win football games.
Do they look similar to any defense you faced this year, or are they kind of completely unique?
Well, a lot of the Big 12 obviously is a lot of 3 down, what we'd call an odd front, and they're not exclusively 4 down, but much more 4 down than probably we see on a week in, week out basis.
Take away the Iowa State game, and Skyler down the stretch of the games really had some decent passing performances. How did you feel like he came along in the passing game the second half of the season?
Yeah, I was extremely happy with him, but also happy with the wide receiver core as a whole group. You do have to take the Iowa State game out a little bit. Most people from just watching on a TV wouldn't have known just the true magnitude of the wind and the weather conditions in general. But as a whole, especially the last 5 or 6 games, I felt like Skyler and the receiving core became a legitimate threat. If somebody wanted to truly just try to take away the run game by playing cover 1 or cover 0 man-to-man, they were able to create separation, get open, and he does a nice job putting the ball on them.
One of the Navy players earlier described to me the fact that maybe Skyler was a little bit like Ian Book, the quarterback in Notre Dame. Did you see any similarities between the two?
To be quite honest with you, I don't know that I've seen Notre Dame play enough to truly say that. The thing that I feel like is that he has become a dual threat quarterback, meaning that there are a number of games, big games that we were able to win where Skyler became a run threat. And I really believe his best attribute is his arm and his understanding of our offense. But I think he does run the ball well enough that people have to try to defend the run game.
I know in one presser in Manhattan with Coach Lyman, he mentioned that you guys are going to see a lot more bowl game prep than normal versus focusing on the young players in practice. But are there any of the young players that really stood out?
I've been really, really happy with the whole group, especially the offensive line. And the offensive line, it's important that they do come along because, we have 5 senior starters. But Cooper Beebe is an example of a young man that's a true freshman that we really feel like's got a great future ahead. Obviously, his work ethic's got to continue to be a huge part of who he is. But right now, he's shown that. He's shown that he wants to get better every day. And I'm only using him as the example, but we were happy in general with the entire offensive line and the freshman group in general. He's playing tackle right now, but he's also played a number of snaps of guard. He's a guy that we feel like cerebrally, mentally will be able to handle either position.
When you think back to Josh Youngblood first getting here, how did he make the transition from high school quarterback to receiver, return guy?
Well, the first thing was right after he signed, he was one of the first guys, if not the first guy, asking for information, asking for playbook, getting on the phone with Coach Ray and talking offensive scheme. And then when he got here in June, he was probably as good as anybody at being able to bring what he had learned or what he'd received during the winter or spring really, and transferring it or taking it to the field in June. So when they had their captain's practices, when they were out there after the weight room workouts and the conditioning stuff, he already knew what the formations were, so he could start learning the offense.
How do you feel like an offseason will benefit Josh going forward?
Well, I think the biggest thing that it'll allow him to do is bring that big playability that he has as a return guy to the field on the offense, and that's something we've got to get from him. If it's handing it to him on the fly sweep type stuff, or if it's throwing it to him down the field, we got to get more out of him so that, guys don't only ask me questions about Malik, they ask me about Josh also as a receiver, because I really feel like we're going to have some wide receivers that can create issues for people. I use Malik as an example, but we're very happy with Phillip Brooks. I'm very happy with Joaquin Gill, and the guy that probably came on the most the last 4 weeks was actually Sebastian Taylor, as far as a guy that made some huge plays for us. I shouldn't say the last few weeks, because I believe even the TCU game, he had a huge catch down there that put us to 4th and 1, where we were able to go for it and convert.
Sorry to ask you about Malik, but you feeling like he's healthy enough to go?
Yeah, he's as healthy as he's been in a while, so I feel really, really good about him.
Coach, you're a first-year program in a bowl game. Was it hard to balance putting things in for this game and also just focusing on getting better?
Well, thankfully, we really felt like we're able to put our, quote, general or normal offense in against this defense. There are some weeks you go into it and say, hey, because of what somebody does, you can't maybe run what would you consider to be your base stuff. As an example, our defense this week, this entire bowl prep, obviously has had to worry much more about option than they normally would. For us, because this is a for the most part, 4-down defense, that we were able to basically say, hey, we can continue to get better at who we are while we continue to prepare for Navy.
Other than Skyler, how do you view the quarterback situation moving forward, given that you did lose 2 players to transfers?
Yeah, it'll be interesting because this spring will be a huge spring for us. Obviously, Nick and Jaron need to have really, really good springs. I think that it's kind of crazy to say it this way, but Skyler can still grow, especially mentally, of who we are offensively. And then we're going to obviously have one of the guys we signed will be here this spring. That'll give him a jump ahead as far as just trying to learn the offense and trying to feel comfortable in his skin when he's making calls. So it'll be an important spring for us from a quarterback standpoint.
How much have you seen Jaron specifically grow?
Jaron, like every freshman, has had a little bit of roller coaster. There's days where you come away saying, wow, he's starting to figure it out, and because he's got great arm talent, and we feel like he's going to be a really, really good thrower of the football. But it still comes back to that position is so mental. I mean, when you look at all the great ones, just using the NFL as the example, it's the guys that are able to almost anticipate and know what's going to happen before it actually does, so they're able to operate so well. And that's where Jaron's got to get it so the game slows down for him.
I haven't got to ask you about him yet. What do you like most about Will Howard?
He's a winner. He's done a great job of taking care of what it is to get ready for a game. They had some huge games down the stretch of their season, playing against teams that had knocked them out of the playoffs and those types of things in years past. And he was focused and did a great job leading his team, and that's one of the main things we're always going to look for in a quarterback is character and the ability to be a leader. And it's not always about winning the game because it's a team game, but it's about putting yourself in a position to have an opportunity to be successful, and we feel like he'll do that.
Sometimes it feels like it's only been a couple of weeks since we saw you guys in Frisco.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that for us sometimes it's interesting that you'd say it that way, because sometimes it feels like we just got here, but then when you ask me about our Mississippi State game, I'd say, wow, how long ago was that? So as a season goes and draws out, at times it can feel like the season is a grinder on you, but then when you put it in a big perspective, it does feel like we were in Frisco just yesterday.
What has this been like, this ride, this first season with Chris?
Well, probably the thing would come back to more to the players and how well they accepted us and jumped on board. I'll just use those 5-0 linemen that are all seniors as examples of guys that didn't balk at all. They jumped in and tried to learn things as fast as they could, and that's what gave us the opportunity to be successful, was the buy-in from the players.
What have you noticed out of Navy's secondary in those games where they really kind of got battle tested?
Well, you just got to look at the two safeties as examples, 10 and 11, very, very physical, very, very good football players, understand the fits on all the stuff, but yet still cover people when people do throw it against them. And, people might say that they're going to give up some yards throwing, but yeah, they do. They give up some yards throwing, but they don't give up a whole bunch of points. I mean, they do a good job of getting off the field and giving their offense the ball. But their secondary, I think, are very, very smart and play well together.
You guys are so used to just dominating time of possession. How much is
Yeah.
it says, hey, we might be on the other side of this coin, so our possession would be something more crucial?
Well, I think it's important for our players to understand that we are similar in styles of offense when it comes to we want to hold the ball per se. We want to get done with the game and have 34, 35, 36 minutes of possession, and we want to be good on third down, and that's what they want to be. And they're also obviously similar to us. If they do go for it on fourth down, they're expected to make it. I talk to our guys all the time about if Coach Kleiman asks us to go for it on fourth down, our mindset needs to be we need to be 100%. Reality is you're not going to be 100%, but our mindset needs to be good. Give me the opportunity. Let's go move the chains.
Looking back, how valuable has James Gilbert been?
Well, both him and Jordan have been huge for us because of the depth they've given us, the ability when they're healthy to make big plays. Obviously, unfortunately, both those guys were varying degrees of full speed during the season. Obviously, now we feel like in the bowl prep, both those guys should be full speed and be able to go. But, James has done a great job of, even though he's not a big guy, of being a violent runner of the football and makes big plays for us when we hand it to him. And then Jordan obviously has done a nice job not only getting it handed to him and being able to find the end zone, but also throwing it to him.
What are your thoughts on Tarcadia and Joe Irvin, and then any other younger running backs maybe we haven't been able to see on the field?
Yeah, really those are the main two from that freshman class that jump out to you and to us as well. Joe obviously has got a little bit more what I'd say quick twitch, a little bit more just burst right now, but he's not nearly the size of guy that, Jacardia should be able to be a 220-pound tailback by the time he's all said and done. And I don't know his exact weight now, but he's probably somewhere in the 210 range right now and has good speed and good vision. We've got to get all those guys to understand that college football is still different than where they came from. A high school setting has great players in high school. Now that next level is you got to pick your game up, and we feel good about both of them, but they still have room to grow.
What do you feel like Deuce Vaughn and Keon Mosey can add to that running back room for you guys?
Well, ability to have big plays, home run hitters. That was one of the things we were fortunate when we were at North Dakota State is guys finding their role but being able to make big plays even though they maybe wouldn't have 25 carries. And that's one of the things that we watch both those guys and say whether it's handing it to them or throwing it to them, their ability to make explosive plays. I don't know their exact track times, but both of them I would say are very, very good with their top end speed and ability to make a big play for us.
Who are some of the younger players on this team that impressed you during this bowl prep?
It's kind of odd because some of them are guys that have played a bunch. Malik, we've already talked a little bit about, but I think he's continued to grow as a leader, a guy that understands that work ethic and how to get better is going to be on how you go about attacking the process. Just as an example, both Malik and Josh Youngblood we had a little bit of downtime when Christmas came. Neither of them went home. Both of them were in the weight room on their own, not just working out, but catching balls, catching jugs and that type of stuff. And that work ethic's going to be huge for us because it'll allow them to kind of teach that and mentor the young guys that come in.
The service academies run the option so well, but it's not very widespread elsewhere. Why don't you think more coaches?
You know, it's odd that you put that to me that way because Colin and I and Coach Ray and I were talking. You know, you would think that with people seeing the success they have, that other people would say, hey, if I can go recruit anybody in the country and play that style of football, you know, who could stop us? I think the problem with most of us say is, can you go recruit that 4 and 5 or even that 3-star guy sometimes with that style of play? And, you know, I think it's a very, very tough offense to stop. And to be honest with you, I don't know. It's cyclical. At some point, it may come back around where people are running that style of offense. But right now, there's probably only about 3 or 4 or 5, maybe at the most, in Division I, and in FCS, there's probably 3 or 4 also that are all pretty darn good at it because they don't see it that often. Other teams don't see it that often.
With Josh specifically, even though, I mean, the majority of like his big plays come in special teams, have you seen how that gives him confidence when he's doing more things with the offense?
Yeah, and even, you know, early, I don't know, early, it might have been week 5 or 6 when he scored a touchdown off of a sweep action, a speed sweep. You know, he was juiced up. I mean, he was fired up for the opportunity. This past game against Iowa State, we ran kind of a speed sweep where it was not blocked correctly and probably was not read correctly, but he still made the first guy miss and then made the second guy miss and then made 2 or 3 other guys have to tackle him rather than just one guy. And it could have easily been a 4 or 5 yard loss. And those are the things that I think his confidence comes out a little bit when he starts having success because he honestly believes not one guy can tackle him. I mean, one person one-on-one, he believes should not tackle me, and that's the mindset that you need to have.
Tight end such an integral position for your offense, and you've had really good ones in North Dakota State. How did the position kind of grow throughout the season, and how much more growth would you like to see?
Well, I think from the very start, those guys knew that we were going to be in 12 personnel and 21 personnel, which is a fullback rather than a, quote, tight end, even though they're somewhat interchangeable for us. They knew right from the start that we would use multiple tight ends. I don't know that it's really grown as much as I would have wanted it to throughout the season. Sometimes it's backed up a little bit and we've been less. Part of that's dictated by the matchups. You know, somebody asked me early in the year, you know, how much we're going to throw it to them on a given week, and that really is dictated by how the defense looks to stop our run game and how they try to match up with those tight ends. I would not say that with the caliber of teams that we play against, that we generally have a matchup issue for them right now, meaning I'm talking speed. Everybody's linebackers in the Big 12 can really, really run. So that ability to match up our tight ends at this time and say, hey, make those linebackers cover you, I don't know that we're there yet as far as I think we'll continue to get better. I think we'll continue to make it an issue for linebackers to be able to, quote, play the run and stop our tight end passing game. But you know, we have to keep getting better at that and create bigger issues for the linebackers and safeties.